This is very bad news for Republican Speaker of the House, MAGA Mike Johnson, as hell is breaking loose within the Republican caucus. MAGA Mike Johnson can only afford to lose 3 MAGA Republican Congress members in the vote for the disastrous budget bill. If more than 3 end up voting against the disastrous budget bill will fail on the floor. One of the questions we're looking at this morning is, will it even pass the Rules Committee? Because a number of MAGA Republican Congress members, including the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, Andy Harris, as well as Ralph Norman, who sits on the Rules Committee, is saying that they're going to vote against the rule. Now, as soon as the disastrous budget bill passed the Senate with Lisa Murkowski, MAGA Republican senator, although she doesn't consider herself as such, from Alaska, voting in favor of the budget bill after getting special carve-outs for Alaska at the expense of other Americans. She came out and said, "This is a bad budget bill that I just voted for. Please," literally she said this, "please help me, House, vote against and change what I just voted for to try to make this disastrous budget bill better." Well, I count right now 8 MAGA Republicans who say publicly they are voting against the budget bill in its current form. And as I mentioned, MAGA Mike can only afford to lose 3. So here's on my list. I have statements from Andy Harris saying he's voting against it, from Ralph Norman saying he's voting against it, from Andy Ogles saying he's voting against it, from Chip Roy, MAGA Republican, saying he's voting against it, David Valadao from out here in California voting against it, Thomas Massey from Kentucky voting against it, Warren Davidson voting against it, and Andy Biggs from Arizona, who's also running for governor of Arizona. These people say they're running against it. Victoria Spars. Let's add 9 Victoria Spars to that. So these are people who have played this game before. They say they're absolutely voting no. They ultimately create a lot of drama, but then sometimes they end up voting for it after Donald Trump gives them a call and goes, "I'm going to primary you." So we'll see. But all these people say they are voting against it. I've been keeping that list right here. Another issue for MAGA Mike Johnson, massive delays at DC's airport, DCA. As Jake Sherman reports, maybe he would have wanted Pete Buttigieg to be in charge of the Department of Transportation. Jake Sherman goes, "As members get back into town for House votes tomorrow, I see a lot of problems at local airports." Sherman said this last night. DCA has all inbound flights held at their origin until 9:30. Pretty hefty arrival delays, and inbound flights held at their origin for an average of almost 3 hours. Several key hubs are also seeing some pretty major delays, including CLT Airport and ATL Airport. And of course, by now, you also know that Elon Musk has been absolutely trashing this disastrous budget bill, and he's been saying any member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame, and they will lose their primary next year if it's the last thing on earth that I will do. I want to show you what some of these MAGA Republicans who are making MAGA Mike Johnson's life hell. MAGA Mike Johnson is nervous right now. Let me show you some data points why. So you just see, it's not being hyperbolic. Let me show you the facts and you could judge for yourself. I do give you the disclaimer. These MAGA Republicans often say they're definitely voting against something and they're caving, but not always. MAGA Republican Andy Ogles introduced an amendment that would basically completely terminate the Senate's version of the disastrous budget bill. Here's what Ogles posted earlier yesterday. "I do not work for the Senate parliamentarian. I work for the people. That's why I just filed an amendment to delete their dud and replace it with the strong House bill we passed weeks ago. The Senate's version of the big, beautiful bill guts key Trump provisions, all at the behest of an unelected parliamentarian." That's how they're framing it there. Amendment to the Senate amendment to H.R. 1 offered by Mr. Ogles. Strike all after enacting clause and insert the text of H.R. 1 as passed by the House of Representatives on May 22nd, 2025. In other words, delete the entire Senate bill and replace it with the bill by the MAGA Republican Congress members that they passed on May 22nd. From MAGA Republican Congresswoman Victoria Spartz yesterday. She goes, "As of right now, the version passed by the Senate violates the minimum fiscal framework signed by over 30 Republicans by roughly $500 billion. Speaker Johnson previously committed not to put any bill on the floor that violates it, so members will have a decision to make. So that's what she's saying right there. Then you have David Valadao, MAGA Republican Congress member from California, who previously wrote this. I've been clear from the start that I will not support a final reconciliation bill that makes harmful cuts to Medicaid, puts critical funding at risk, or threatens the stability of healthcare providers across California's 22nd district. I support the reasonable provisions of H.R. 1 that protect Medicaid's long-term viability and ensure the program continues to serve our most vulnerable. But I will not support a final bill that eliminates vital funding streams our hospitals rely on, including provider taxes and state-directed payments, or any provisions that punish expansion states. But MAGA Mike and all the MAGA Republicans who support the disastrous budget bill say that that's not happening, Valadao. So who's telling us the truth? Well, we know that this disastrous budget bill just destroys and guts all of the kind of safety social nets. I think Judd Legum says it right. 7 things everyone should know about Trump's bill. It cuts $930 billion from Medicaid. 17 million people will lose it. It's up actually from 16 million yesterday. Now it's 17 million. Slashes nutrition assistance for poor families by $186 billion. It lower incomes for the bottom 40% of families. It increases the deficit by $3.3 trillion, $45 billion for new immigration jails, billions for defense contractors. ICE will get a bigger budget to conduct those raids wearing the masks. Their budget will be bigger than the Marines, and the billionaires are the ones who are going to be getting massive, massive tax cuts. All right. MAGA Republican Congress member Andy Harris, who leads the Freedom Caucus, the far right-wing group. Here he says he ain't voting for this. He goes, I believe the rule vote will not pass tomorrow morning. He said this yesterday, so we'll see if it passes this morning. He goes, then the speaker's going to have to decide. So I'm just trying to give you the data points. So if the rule is voted down, it doesn't become like, oh my God, we didn't know this. What a shocker. I'm showing you what the Congress members are saying. So here's what Harris says. Play this clip.
So where are you on the bill that came out of the Senate?
Well, you know, the rumor is that we might have a rule vote tomorrow. The rule is basically our motion to proceed. I don't think the votes are there, just like they weren't in the Senate initially until some concessions were made. I believe that the rule vote will not pass tomorrow morning, and then the speaker's going to have to decide how he gets this back into the Senate framework, but into the House framework, I should say, right. And whether that's by scaling back some of the tax cuts that were added in the Senate, whether it's by going after some of the Green New Scam that the president doesn't like. We'll get there eventually, but I don't think it's going to be in the next couple days.
No, but just for clarity purpose, are you a yes or a no on the Senate bill?
Oh, I'm a no on the rule, which is the motion to proceed to taking a vote on the Senate bill.
Here's another clip by Harris attacking the disastrous budget bill. Let's play it.
I've been watching closely everything that went on in the House and now in the Senate, and I'm thinking to myself, if this bill is such a good idea, why is it having so much trouble getting through?
Well, I'll tell you, the last-minute changes in the Senate, like literally the very last amendment, probably added another $100 billion to that deficit by adding in some of the Green New Scam subsidies. The bottom line is this is not ready for prime time. We support the president's agenda. The president's agenda was not to raise the deficit by $750 billion over the next 10 years. The bottom line is now the House is going to have its say. This is not going to sail through the House. We're going to have to negotiate with the Senate one more time, and that's just appropriate. That's the way the legislative process works and the way it should work on a bill of this size.
And here's one more clip of Harris attacking the disastrous budget bill.
All right, so Elon Musk had some pretty harsh words for the House Freedom Caucus. He said the following. He said, how can you call yourself the Freedom Caucus if you vote for a debt slavery bill with the biggest debt ceiling increase in history? What do you say to Mr. Musk?
Well, that's exactly why a group of us are not going to vote to advance the bill until we iron out some of the deficit problems with the bills. And look, Mr. Musk is right. We cannot sustain these deficits. He understands finances. He understands debts and deficits. And we have to make further progress. And I believe the Freedom Caucus will take the lead in making that further progress.
Now, Democratic Congress member Jim McGovern, you've seen here on the MeidasTouch network before. He says, look, we just heard from Andy. This is what he said yesterday. We heard from Andy Harris. He says he's not even going to vote on the rule when it comes before the full committee. So what is it? What are we doing here, idiots? Well, I added idiots, but here's what he says. Play this clip.
I have a question for you, Madam Chair. I'm just reading some of the, this is a post from Fox News saying that Andy Harris, who's our colleague, the head of the chair of the Freedom Caucus, has said that he will vote no on the rule when this rule comes before the full committee. He said that he'll vote no on the rule for the big, beautiful bill. He said that I don't think it's going to be in the next couple of days, but it's going to have to be a compromise between the House and the Senate, basically saying we're not there yet. I guess if the head of the Freedom Caucus is now publicly announcing he's against not the bill but the rule, then what the hell are we doing here? Because if you lose 3 or 4 members, then we're spinning our wheels here. So do you have any information on how many Republicans are going to vote no on the rule? Because I can assure you every Democrat is voting no on the rule.
No, sir. And as you know, we are the Speaker's Committee, and it's our task to hold this hearing on the bill, and we'll continue until we're given directions that there is no chance that the rule or the bill will pass.
Okay, I just wanted my colleagues to know that, and I'll keep announcing as people on the Republican side announce that they're voting against the rule, because I think that's relevant information.
Next, here's what MAGA Republican Congress member Warren Davidson said, as Stephen Dennis explains. Davidson sticking to his guns. He voted against the bill originally with Massey. 2 more Republican no's could force changes. And as I've just listed for you, I've listed 9. 9. Warren Davidson says the following. How big are federal deficits? Currently, the United States is expected to spend nearly $2 trillion more than the revenue collected by the federal government. The big beautiful bill is projected to increase deficits by as much as $500 billion per year. And he goes, that's why he will be voting against it. All right. MAGA Republican Chip Roy. Chip Roy was on the show, and here's what Chip Roy had to say. Here, play this clip.
We've not seen the final product out of the Senate. We don't have the text. We've got to review it. I try to be level-headed through these things. I have enormously strong and good friends in the administration who, in good faith, want to see this pass, just as you do, just as I do, just as the American people do. They want to see us move forward legislation to make tax cuts permanent, to deliver on the border funding that we need. You know, Stephen Miller is a longtime friend I've known for 25 years. Russ Vought is a longtime friend I've known for 25 years. We've been working together in the trenches for as long as I can remember. We all want to deliver. The problem is the swamp is going to swamp. And right now we have a bill that, in my estimation, violates the House framework, but more importantly, would add significantly to the deficits. Now we have differing views.
More than it did, right?
By quite a bit, in my view.
Now, here's what Chip Roy said in the Rules Committee yesterday when he was questioning Congressmember Arrington from Texas, who leads the committee for the MAGA Republicans. Here, play this clip.
My colleagues in the Senate failed us. They sent us a bill knowingly, using a policy baseline gimmick. They sent it knowingly. And they sent it knowing that it was going to have increased deficits. Last question, I'm sorry, it's for my good friend from Texas, who I don't really want to put on the spot here in a way that's beyond, I think, the core question, but this matters. Regardless of what one thinks about these policies and wanting to be able to have the economic growth, I want the tax cuts to be permanent. I want all this stuff. But is it fair to say that the lion's share of the deficits will be in the first 5 years of the 10-year budget window? Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's fair.
Is that relatively irrefutably fair to say?
It's irrefutable to my knowledge.
the only way to refute the idea that in the first 4 to 5 years of the budget window, that we will have significant deficits to the tune of probably close to 2 trillion, 1.8 trillion, even on a dynamic basis, assuming the budget committee's number, that you have to make up for it in the tail in the last 5 years of the budget window. The only way to do that, to the best of my knowledge, is to assume more revenue for tariffs and assume higher growth rates. So I think you have to assume, I haven't done the exact math, 3 to 3.5% growth over 10 years, which I hope we have, and we should aspire to get, and tariff revenue at the rate that we currently are bringing it in or more, which CBO has scored to CBO's math, 2.8 trillion. I just did that from memory, something like that. So it'd be about 280 billion a year. So you have to assume that tariff revenue and assume, call it 3.5% roughly growth. Then you start to kind of wash out what we're doing in Congress by our choice. Everything we just said, we're leaving essentially administration to go carry out. If I'm characterizing anything incorrectly, does anybody want to challenge what I just said mathematically? With that, I will yield back.
All right, I think I'm making a pretty convincing case right here. You tell me what you think. Although, as I'm saying up front, these MAGA Republicans are often very cowardly and say they're going to vote against something, and then they lie. Here's how Donald Trump's trying to promote the disastrous budget bill with memes like this: no tax on Social Security, which again, that's just total fraud, because there's nothing about no tax on Social Security in this disastrous budget bill. Let me share this with you. MAGA Republican Congress member Ralph Norman, he told Punchbowl News and other that he's a no on the floor and no in the Rules Committee as well. The Rules Committee vote happens first, then the floor. But here's what Ralph Norman says about the disastrous budget bill. Play this clip.
And all I would say is that the founders and the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence would be astounded that we're sitting here talked about something that we hadn't read fully. We hadn't got a copy of it. Now, Mr. McGovern, I do agree with you on that. The fact that we should have it in hand. I think the founders and the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence would be astounded that we're adding debt to our children and grandchildren who are defenseless. Debt is a curse. And Jody, you were right. We got to reverse the curse. And what the Senate did is unconscionable. What they did to our bill was unconscionable. And that's why, I will be, unlike my Democrat colleagues, they will not support anything their new leader in New York, Mandani, government-run stores, government-run gas stations, government-run apartments. I wonder how many U-Haulers are now leaving New York, and the socialist theory just does not work. So, I'm against this because of what the Senate did. I'll vote against it here, and I'll vote against it on the floor.
Even the MAGA Republican Congress member Arrington, he says, look, if you want me to try to make the argument that this bill is great, I can't make the argument. This bill's not really that good. Here, play this clip.
So, if you're looking to make the argument this bill isn't perfect when it comes to any principle, including fiscal discipline, you win.
Well, I appreciate that.
Because it's not perfect. And so you win. I mean, honestly. But to say that, the old Ronald Reagan 80-20, fill in the blank, in not so perfect processes in a political process, having significant reforms on the fiscal side, like the spending cuts, like the welfare reforms that are long overdue, much needed, like preventing, which 40 some odd Democrats opposed, preventing taxpayer dollars to flow to people who are here illegally.
Okay, so you hear him saying that as well. And then you had Lisa Murkowski put out the following statement. She said, this has been an awful process, a frantic rush to meet an artificial deadline that has tested every limit of this institution. While we have worked to improve the present bill for Alaska, it is not good enough for the rest of our nation, and we all know it. Yeah, if you're making others get screwed, that's not a good situation. She goes, my sincere hope, this is what she says. She goes, my sincere hope is that this is not the final product. This bill needs more work across chambers and is not ready for the president's desk. We need to work together to get this right. Well, why did you vote on it if you didn't want it as a final product? Why would you sign something that you know is going to kill people, as you're saying? That's one of the most heinous things I've ever heard. In many ways, it's worse than what the other MAGA Republicans are doing. And here's what MAGA Mike Johnson is saying. So you can hear from him. MAGA Mike Johnson's like, hopefully we get this bill done on Wednesday, maybe Thursday. I don't know. We'll see. Here, I'll play this clip right here.
Well, we're having weather delays getting everybody back right now, but assuming we have a full House, we'll get it through the Rules Committee in the morning. We'll move that forward to the floor, and hopefully we're voting on this by tomorrow or Thursday at latest. Depending on the weather, delays, and travel, and all the rest, that's the wild card that we can't control.
All right, so I think that gives you a good state of the play of everything that is going on right now. We'll keep you posted each step of the way. I think that was comprehensive. We'll see if all those people vote no, like they claim they're going to vote. We shall see. And I told you Andy Biggs was voting no. Andy Biggs said, you can keep increasing the deficit. Maybe it gets done by the 4th of July, but probably not. Maybe it gets done by the middle of next week. That's what he says. We'll see. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. Diligent, detailed, objective-based reporting, comprehensive, here on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 6 million subscribers. Check out MeidasPlus.com as well. Thank you so much.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.